What if your emotions weren't a burden, but a weapon? Most people let emotions control them, but the Stoics, they used emotion like fire, dangerous when wild, unstoppable when mastered. Are you tired of reacting and regretting? Imagine having the ability to pause, think, and act with calm power, no matter what life throws your way. That's not fantasy. That's Stoic philosophy. The world teaches you to feel everything. But what if that's the trap? What if true strength isn't in feeling more, but in mastering what you feel when you feel it and how you use it? There are moments in life when it feels like your emotions are winning. Times when disappointment simmers beneath the surface and anger surges through your chest like a wildfire you can't put out. We've all been there, overwhelmed, overthinking, and unsure how to pull ourselves back to center. In those moments, some people shut down, others explode, but a rare few rise. Not because they feel nothing, but because they've trained themselves to feel differently. This is where Stoicism enters, not as a cold philosophy that demands indifference, but as a daily discipline that refines how we feel, think, and act. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions. It's about converting them, turning chaos into clarity, fear into fuel, pain into purpose. And today you'll learn how. Because today we step into the world of Stoic philosophy, where emotional mastery isn't reserved for monks or philosophers, but for everyday people who choose inner strength over outer drama. We're diving into 7 powerful Stoic principles, starting with the one that clears the emotional fog more than any other: cutting off toxic people. Cut off toxic people from your life. Let's begin where most emotional chaos starts, not inside you, but around you. Your environment is not neutral. Every person you allow close to you is either feeding your growth or feeding your doubt. They are either watering your confidence or draining your clarity. Think of your mind as a sacred garden. What grows there depends on what you allow to enter. And toxic people? They're weeds, loud, suffocating, and invasive. They gossip, they complain, they criticize your goals, mock your progress, and plant seeds of doubt that grow into forests of hesitation. And over time, you begin to question yourself. You second-guess your decisions. You replay conversations wondering, was I wrong? Not because you failed, but because their energy infected your peace. Now imagine this. You begin limiting those conversations. You stop giving access to people who misuse it. You step away, not in anger, but in self-respect. Suddenly the fog lifts. You feel lighter, more focused. You start remembering who you are. The Stoics taught this clearly. You are not obligated to invite chaos into your mind. You don't owe your energy to people who constantly drain it. As Seneca put it, associate with people who are likely to improve you. And if that's not possible, choose solitude over sabotage. Ask yourself right now, who in your life constantly brings stress, doubt, or distraction? What conversations leave you feeling drained instead of empowered? Why are you still tolerating them? Cutting someone off doesn't make you heartless. It makes you wise. It means you've decided your peace is more important than their permission. Now that you've cleared the emotional clutter and taken back your space, it's time to move to the next principle, one that teaches the power of silence and how holding your tongue can often hold more power than saying anything at all. After clearing out toxic influences, you begin to notice something powerful. Your emotional clarity improves. But protecting your peace isn't just about who you remove. It's also about how you engage with the world that remains. There comes a point in personal growth when difficult decisions must be made, when you realize that not every connection deserves your time, your energy, or your heart. This is not about holding grudges or harboring resentment. It's about wisdom. It's about recognizing that some relationships, while once meaningful, now act as anchors instead of wings. To grow, sometimes you must let go. When someone consistently disrupts your peace, drains your motivation, or undermines your self-worth, the most loving thing you can do for both yourself and them is create space. Whether that means a quiet distancing or a definitive severing, the purpose is always the same: to preserve your inner well-being. Think of your emotional life like a garden. If you allow invasive weeds to grow unchecked, they will strangle everything beautiful you've planted. But once removed, you create fertile ground, space for new connections, richer goals, and deeper self-respect to take root. And no, this isn't selfish. It's self-responsibility. As the Stoics taught, We are each the guardians of our own peace. Nobody else will protect it for us. Eliminating toxic relationships is one of the most courageous steps you can take on the path to emotional strength and spiritual autonomy. Because when you make room, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, for what uplifts you, your motivation rises, your clarity sharpens, your soul exhales. It's not about isolation, it's about alignment. So remember, emotional mastery starts not just with introspection, but with curation. Curation of the voices you let in, curation of the energies you allow around you. And once your environment begins to align with your values, the next step is just as critical, learning to protect your time and attention. Set boundaries and stop being always available. If your life feels cluttered, if your mind feels overstimulated, if your emotions feel constantly hijacked by others' demands, chances are your boundaries are either too soft or non-existent. We live in a culture that glorifies availability. Respond now. Be there always. Say yes or risk being seen as rude, lazy, or selfish. But the Stoics saw things differently. They valued introspection over interruption, silence over noise, purpose over people-pleasing. As the great Seneca said, nothing is ours except time. Yet so many give it away freely to anyone who asks. When you're always available, you send an unspoken message. My time doesn't matter. My needs come second. My peace is negotiable. But boundaries are not barriers. They are bridges. Bridges to a life where you're no longer emotionally overdrawn and spiritually exhausted. Imagine this. You work long hours, you say yes to every favor, you answer texts at midnight, take on tasks beyond your limit, and smile while doing it. But deep down, you're tired, burned out, resentful. Now imagine the shift. You pause before responding. You say no, without guilt. You schedule time just for yourself, uninterrupted, unapologetically. You don't ghost others. You don't shut down. But you learn to protect your emotional wallet, because your energy, like money, is finite. This is the heart of Stoic balance, to serve others without sacrificing yourself. With clear boundaries, your life becomes less reactive and more reflective. Instead of impulsively jumping into every demand, you learn to respond, thoughtfully, calmly, intentionally. And in that space between stimulus and response, that's where self-mastery grows. When you respect your own time, others start respecting it too. Boundaries aren't walls that shut the world out. They are filters that allow only what aligns with your values in. And with every healthy boundary you establish, your emotional strength deepens. Because when you guard your time, you guard your peace. And when your peace is guarded, your purpose can flourish. Now that you've learned to protect your space and time, the next Stoic principle takes us to the most personal territory of all, love. Because even in matters of the heart, balance is key. And sometimes loving too much can mean losing yourself entirely. Let's explore rule number 3. Once you've created emotional space through boundaries, the next challenge is more delicate, learning how to love deeply without losing yourself in the process. Don't love anyone too much. Emotions are the bridge between our inner life and the joy we seek in the world. They're how we connect, how we care, and how we find meaning. And among all emotions, love is one of the most powerful. But as the Stoics remind us, even love must be held with wisdom. Stoic philosophy doesn't reject love. In fact, it honors it. But it warns of the dangers of excessive attachment, when love stops being a source of growth and starts becoming a chain around the soul. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great minds of Stoicism, put it simply, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength? It's the power to love someone without making them your whole identity, to enjoy someone's presence without becoming emotionally dependent on them, to hold someone close without clinging in fear of losing them. Let's make this real for a moment. Picture a relationship where you pour everything into another person. You give them your time, your energy, your heart, fully, constantly. At first it feels like devotion, but slowly it starts to blur into dependence. You begin to need their validation to feel worthy. Their attention becomes your anchor, their withdrawal, your collapse. And when that relationship shifts, when they disappoint you or distance themselves, the pain hits harder than it should. Why? Because you built your emotional foundation on someone else's presence. The Stoics knew this trap well. They taught that true strength is the ability to appreciate love without needing it to feel whole, to experience connection without sacrificing independence. to be fully present with others while never abandoning yourself. This isn't coldness, it's clarity. Stoicism teaches us not to suppress love, but to refine it, to love with open hands, not clenched fists, to give affection freely but never let your identity be swallowed by it. Because love, when rooted in inner strength rather than emotional dependency, becomes something beautiful and sustainable. You don't stop caring, you start caring more wisely. You begin to ask, can I love this person while still protecting my peace? Can I show affection without making their choices the compass of my happiness? When you master this balance, you become resilient. You don't fall apart when someone leaves. You don't spiral when expectations go unmet. Instead, you adapt, you remain whole, and most importantly, you become emotionally free. Imagine loving without fear. Imagine caring without clinging. Imagine walking beside someone, not behind, not beneath, but beside them. That's the Stoic approach to love, full of warmth but grounded in wisdom, rich with emotion but never ruled by it. So the next time you feel yourself getting overly attached, pause, reflect. Ask yourself, is this love strengthening me or consuming me? Because true love should never erase you, it should expand you. And once you learn to love without excessive attachment, you're ready to face life with a quieter, stronger heart. Don't always express your feelings and views. In the noise of modern life, everyone wants to be heard, to speak up, to be seen. But Stoicism teaches a counterintuitive truth. Not every feeling needs to be voiced. Not every opinion needs to be shared. Sometimes strength is silence. In daily life, we're constantly met with pressure, disagreements at work, tension in relationships, conflicts on social media, and in those moments, the urge to speak your mind, to defend, to react, to be right, can feel overwhelming. But here's the question. What does that really serve? More often than not, it leads to more friction, more chaos, and more emotional turbulence. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." He didn't say the loudness of your voice or how many arguments you win. He said thoughts, inner clarity, mental calm. And that begins with knowing when to keep your peace instead of proving a point. You don't need to suppress your emotions, just don't let them spill uncontrollably. You don't need to agree with everything, just don't feel obligated to voice every disagreement. Think of emotional expression like a sword, powerful when used wisely, dangerous when swung recklessly. Stoics aren't emotionless, they're deliberate. They ask, will sharing this thought elevate the moment or escalate it? Will expressing this feeling bring healing or harm? So next time you're tempted to speak in anger, pause, take a breath, respond, not react. And when you do choose to speak, let your words carry intention, not impulse. Because the strongest people aren't those who shout the loudest. They're the ones who remain calm in the storm, who express themselves when it matters and hold silence when it's wise. Soft transition to next rule. As you learn to master your love and your voice, the next Stoic principle takes you inward once again, to a place where self-reflection becomes the path to lasting peace. Let's explore rule number 5. After learning the strength of controlled expression, we now turn to an even more subtle discipline, managing how we relate to others emotionally, especially when we seek validation or become overly compassionate. Don't always express your feelings and views. Think back to a time when you proudly shared a personal achievement with someone. Maybe it was a professional success, a creative project, or a difficult goal finally met. You expected encouragement, maybe even admiration. But what came instead? Criticism, sarcasm, or worse, dismissal. And suddenly your joy turned into doubt. Your excitement deflated under the weight of someone else's opinion. That moment reveals a truth the Stoics understood deeply. When you seek acknowledgement from others, you hand over your peace. True happiness, as Stoic philosophy teaches, isn't found in external validation, but in internal mastery. It's about the ability to manage your thoughts, your emotions, and your intellect, independent of anyone's judgment. That's why the 4th rule isn't just about silence. It's about strategic restraint, learning when to speak, how to listen, and how to express yourself with intention rather than impulse. Because when emotions rise unchecked, words become weapons, reactions become regrets, and communication becomes conflict. So what's the Stoic solution? It starts with pausing, especially when stirred. Not to suppress your emotions, but to guide them, to ensure that what you say builds connection, not chaos. Let's take a simple example. You're in a tense conversation. Someone challenges your belief or insults your idea. Your instinct is to defend, to fire back, to prove yourself right. But instead you pause, you breathe, you listen, and in that space you regain control. You choose your response instead of being driven by emotion. You ask yourself, is this worth the energy? Will this elevate or escalate? This is not weakness, it's strength, it's leadership. It doesn't mean never speaking up. It means speaking wisely. It means expressing your truth with calm conviction, not chaotic emotion. When practiced consistently, this restraint becomes your armor in daily life. At work, in family discussions, during moments of stress, it keeps you grounded. You don't just blurt out every thought, you evaluate. You respond when it's fruitful and remain silent when it's futile. The reward? Better relationships, fewer regrets, and a sense of calm power that no one can shake. So remember, speak when it adds value, hold silence when it protects your peace. That's Stoic communication, rooted in clarity, not ego. Don't care for everyone and become less empathetic. Compassion is beautiful. It's one of humanity's highest virtues, the ability to feel for others, to stand with them in their pain, to offer comfort when the world turns cold. But can you care too much? Yes. And the Stoics knew this well. In a world where suffering is everywhere, where stories of heartbreak, failure, and injustice reach us daily, it's easy to become emotionally consumed, to feel like you must help everyone, to carry every burden, to say yes, even when you're drowning yourself. But here's the truth. Not all compassion is healthy. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This doesn't only apply to your own experiences, but also to how you respond to the pain of others. Stoic wisdom teaches disciplined compassion, a form of empathy that knows its limits, a heart that feels but does not bleed for everything, a soul that gives but does not empty itself. Imagine this. You're an office worker. You've been handling deadlines all week, juggling meetings, feeling exhausted. Then a colleague approaches, needing help. They're overwhelmed and you want to be kind, but inside you're drained. Now what's the Stoic choice? It's not coldness. It's not saying, "Not my problem." It's saying, "I see you, I care, but I must also protect my energy. Because if I collapse, I can't help anyone." That's compassion with boundaries. That's empathy with wisdom. Caring for everyone constantly, endlessly, will burn you out. And when you're depleted, your help loses its power. So instead of trying to save everyone, Stoicism invites you to ask, who can truly benefit from my help? Is this my responsibility, or am I stepping into someone else's journey? Not all suffering requires your rescue. Not all problems are yours to solve. Sometimes true compassion is saying no. Sometimes it's letting others struggle so they can grow. Sometimes it's knowing that your energy is sacred and must be preserved to create real impact where it matters. Because if your heart is spread too thin, it cannot love deeply. If your hands are always extended, they may never build what you're meant to create. So be kind, but be wise. Feel deeply, but don't let the world drown you in its pain. Compassion, when guided by Stoic wisdom, becomes a force for healing, not self-destruction. Smooth transition to next rule. As we continue this journey of mastering our emotions and boundaries, the next rule takes us to the heart of clarity, the importance of separating facts from assumptions and training your mind to think with precision. Let's dive into rule number 6. After learning how to offer compassion wisely without losing ourselves, we now come to a lesson that challenges many deeply, the art of placing ourselves first, without guilt or apology. Compassion with boundaries. Compassion is not about constant availability. It's about intentional selection, knowing when to invest your emotions and when to maintain a healthy emotional distance. And it's this thoughtful balance that protects you from emotional whiplash, anxiety, or burnout. When you choose to care, do so genuinely. Let your support be focused, clear, and meaningful, not scattered or forced. Let it be a decision, not a default reaction. Take the earlier example of helping a struggling coworker. You don't have to stretch yourself thin and carry their load during your busiest hours. Instead, you can preserve your mental space, then later, at the right time, offer sincere help. By choosing when and how to give your energy, your care becomes more purposeful and impactful. Too often, when we try to care for everyone, we abandon ourselves. Our own goals blur, our energy depletes, and eventually we start feeling unbalanced, even resentful. That's why the Stoic approach to compassion is not emotional detachment, it's emotional intelligence. It's understanding that while kindness is powerful, discernment is essential. So ask yourself, am I helping out of guilt or purpose? Is this support sustainable, or is it draining me? Does this act of care align with my values, or is it pulling me off course? Because only when your inner world is cared for can you offer the best of yourself to others. And when you do, you not only protect your own emotional balance, but foster healthier connections built on respect, not obligation. In the end, Stoicism teaches us that compassion isn't measured by how much we sacrifice, it's measured by the clarity of our intention and the quality of our actions. Put yourself first and be straightforward. As we move deeper into mastering emotional strength, Rule 6 introduces a fundamental shift in perspective. Prioritize yourself, clearly, confidently, and without apology. This may sound selfish at first, but it's not. It's survival. It's sanity. It's growth. In modern life, pressures are constant. Family expectations, social obligations, workplace demands. We're often trained to please others first, even at the cost of our own mental well-being. And slowly our emotions become knotted. We feel torn, overloaded, and unsure who we're really living for. But Stoic philosophy offers a grounding reminder. You cannot lead, heal, or grow if you're constantly depleted. Imagine you're on an airplane. The safety instruction says, secure your own oxygen mask before helping others. Why? Because you're no use to anyone if you can't breathe. That metaphor applies to life. You must preserve your emotional oxygen, because when your own soul is gasping for air, you cannot pour into others meaningfully. Putting yourself first means prioritizing your mental health, setting boundaries with confidence, and making time for self-development. It means checking in with your values before saying yes to external demands. And most importantly, it means being honest, not just with others, but with yourself. Honesty is the bedrock of emotional power. It's not about bluntness or confrontation. It's about clarity. It's being able to say, this doesn't align with my purpose. I need space to rest. I'm not in the emotional place to handle this right now. It's about expressing your truth with calm firmness, but it's also about receiving truth, about listening, even when it's uncomfortable. Accepting feedback not as a threat, but as a tool for growth. Think of honesty like a mirror. It reflects what's there, flaws and all, but allows you to adjust, improve, and keep becoming your best self. When you're honest, you no longer avoid challenges. You face them head on. You don't bury your emotions. You confront them with courage and clarity. And from that confrontation, strength is born. So let go of the fear of disappointing others. Let go of the guilt for choosing yourself. Let go of the pressure to constantly explain or defend your boundaries. Because putting yourself first is not neglecting others. It's leading by example. It's showing what it means to live intentionally, to stay centered, and to navigate the world with quiet strength. Remember, the Stoic way is not about shutting the world out. It's about entering the world fully equipped with truth, clarity, and self-respect. Transition to next rule. Now that we've built a foundation of internal honesty and personal prioritization, the journey continues with a new challenge, detaching from the need to always be right and letting go of the ego that demands it. Let's move forward into rule number 7. Having embraced the power of prioritizing ourselves and practicing honesty, we now reach a final yet transformative truth. Your greatest strength often hides within your deepest struggles. Embrace adversity and find strength in challenges. This world will never promise a smooth journey. Storms will come. Plans will shatter. Whether it's a career failure, a broken relationship, or unexpected health issues, challenges will arise, sometimes when you least expect them. But what if we saw adversity not as a punishment, but as preparation? The Stoics didn't pray for easier lives. They prepared for stronger minds. They believe that adversity, while painful, holds the power to forge an unshakable spirit. To embrace adversity is to take life head-on, not with despair, but with resolve. It doesn't mean giving up or resigning yourself to misery. It means learning how to extract growth from hardship, how to rise through discomfort with grace, and how to develop the kind of patience and wisdom that only trials can teach. Let's say you're tasked with a high-pressure project at work, with deadlines closing in and stress running high. In moments like this, fear can paralyze, but with a Stoic mindset, you don't allow panic to cloud your actions. You slow down, you assess, you plan, you act. And by staying calm and grounded, not only do you meet the deadline, but you also emerge stronger and more confident, having proven to yourself that pressure doesn't define you, your response does. That's the Stoic advantage. And it becomes even more powerful in relationships. Imagine being able to handle emotional disagreements not with yelling or silence, but with clarity. Instead of reacting impulsively, you listen deeply. Instead of taking things personally, you respond with wisdom. This creates space for healing, not hostility. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This is not just poetic wisdom, it's a life-saving truth. Because life is unpredictable. You can't control the market. You can't control how others treat you. You can't control traffic, illness, or sudden change. But you can control what happens within. And once you master that inner fortress, you no longer live at the mercy of your emotions. You become the master of them. You'll no longer fear bad news, because your spirit is already prepared. You won't panic in uncertainty, because your roots run deep. You'll face betrayal, rejection, and chaos with a centered soul. This is what separates those who merely survive from those who rise. The Stoics understood this. Emotional mastery isn't about suppressing pain, it's about transcending it. By seeing hardship as the forge of growth, you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What can I learn from this?" You begin to treat obstacles as teachers. You begin to treat discomfort as a sculptor shaping your character. And every time life tries to break you, you rebuild stronger. Conclusion: you are becoming emotionally unshakable. Now that you've walked through all 7 Stoic rules, you are no longer just a passive thinker. You're becoming a spiritual warrior. You've equipped yourself with a new mindset, one that does not fold under pressure, one that does not depend on others for validation, one that thrives in clarity, even in the fog of emotion. The fire of life no longer consumes you, it refines you. Remember, life will throw its punches, but you don't need to fight everything. Sometimes your greatest strength is stillness. Sometimes your most powerful response is silence. And sometimes your healing begins the moment you stop trying to control what was never yours. As you move forward, let Stoic wisdom be your guide. Cut off what drains your spirit. Set boundaries to protect your peace. Love with freedom, not attachment. Express yourself with wisdom, not impulse. Care wisely without abandoning yourself. Prioritize your truth, your energy, your growth. And when the storm hits, stand, breathe, rise. You are no longer ruled by emotion. You've become emotionally sovereign. And that is real power. Final message and call to action. Before you leave this journey behind, take a moment to reflect. Which of these 7 principles spoke loudest to your soul today? Now is the time to act on it, because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs grounded, resilient, clear-minded individuals like you. Subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of wisdom. Like and share this video to spread the power of Stoic philosophy with others who need it. Comment below, even just the words, "Encourage me." That one phrase tells us you're ready to build this mindset, ready to live unshaken. So go forward, not just inspired but equipped. Let every challenge refine your discipline. Let every delay deepen your character. Let every emotion serve your mission. Life is a battle, and you are the victor.